Howdy doody dowdy, and welcome to the This Much Is True podcast. I'm Mark Manning. Who are you? What corner of the world do I find you in? I have no idea. Hello to my regulars, and hello especially to Nigel tonight, who broke cover via WhatsApp and sent me a good old meme, he did. Yeah, it was a Del Boy meme about current events. So I really, you're going to kill me because I've nothing prepared, but being as I'm kind of back now, I will give you my stream of consciousness, or stream of bullshit, as probably more aptly. That's if you want to hang around. I want to just kind of take it kind of easy and just go with the flow. So it's 11 degrees Celsius and it's cloudy outside. What about the kind of super moons? Have you seen them recently? Super moons. In the last 2 nights, I have walked to Dunleary from here in Booterstown, County Dublin. And that's a good kind of an hour's walk at my pace anyway, 50 minutes. And I walked right in the direction of this amazing moon. You'd see it rise up off the horizon, and you know when you think you could nearly throw a bottle at the thing. Why you'd want to, I don't know, but a few weeks back it sounds grandiose to say we were doing some filming, but myself and my buddy Steve were out with my iPhone essentially, and we used to do this. I haven't uploaded what I'm about to talk to you about, but we used to do this thing called Scary Ireland, in other words, and it's just such a vibe when you're in a historic area at night, whether something paranormal or not happens. What's for sure is the history is there, and we did a piece in a place called the Black Castle. It's just like a stump of a castle. It goes all the way back to Strongbow. The year 1190 something or other, and it's just teems with history, a lot of violent history. So we were out there at night, and Steve said to me that there was a blood moon there 5-6 weeks ago, which was a week before we were out there. But he lives locally, so he was out with the dogs, and all these guys were gathered on this little beach where St. Patrick actually tried to land and got a nasty reception. The locals fired stones at him, and he had to retreat with his Christianity between his legs into his boats and head off. But Steve was saying to me there was these, the kind of monk outfits, the cowls, and black and white, a mixture of, just all in a circle. So now, whether that was some kind of new age or maybe something more sinister, who knows? But they are among us, whoever these people are. I do like druidry myself, and I can't say I've dabbled in it, but I feel somehow I'm an urban druid at heart. It's very interesting if you look into all that stuff. As is Raj meditation. Check that one out. Apparently, Raj breathing, which is a technique, is the only thing that has, it's a bit late for me, but has reversed coronary blockages. 40 minutes of Raj breathing, R-A-J. Check it out. And that's according to Dr. Malhotra, who's making quite a name for himself because he is a cardiac doctor, and his own father was a doctor as well. And Dr. Malhotra suspects that the intervention killed his father because he knew his father's medical history, and it wasn't long after he got the... Anyway, I won't go there again. I won't. Speaking of Steve, I think he's in a bit of a snot with me because last night, I got this message, and he said, We'd been in a yacht the night before. He's got a stake in a yacht. One of these kind of Sunseeker things. It's an old one. It's like dating from the 90s, but it's cool all the same. Not so much Miami Vice as Liffey Vice. And so we were out and we were sitting and that, and he was talking about, maybe we'll take it down to Greystones. We were in Dunleary. in the next night or two. And I said, yeah, fine. So anyway, last night I got the text, and he says, do you want to go on the boat down to Greystones? I said, fine. Okay, it's a bit of a walk, it's exercise. We'll get home late at night or whatever, because he wanted to re-moor this yacht. But I just got into Dunleary, and he's late for a start, which pisses me off. Like, I'd already, it was half an hour late, so it was getting on for 10 o'clock. And then he says, I get a phone call off him, and he says, we're here. And I went, hold on a second. What's this we? Chemo savvy. And he says, oh, me, and my name's a Guy. And the guy, to be fair, I've met years ago, and he's a fine bloke. He's all right. There's nothing wrong with him. So, you know that thing where they say it's not you, it's me. Well, maybe it is me. But I don't like surprises, especially, maybe you're like this, maybe you're not, maybe you say, fuck you, Mark, but I can be very private, and in spite of all this broadcasty stuff, I can even be shy at times, or I can't socialise with the best of them. In fact, the problem is I never shut the hell up once I get into the social circle, and I've been trying to rein myself in, but it just, like, I wasn't expecting to have to deal with trying to I just wasn't in the mood. So I said, I'm just going to leave it. I had no idea this guy's coming along. I'm just not up to it. It was trepidation enough going down the coast with the water all choppy at night and the moon rapidly disappearing without having to just deal with trying to converse. If I had a heads up, I would have been fine. I could have made a call on it either way. I might have went along. If I had a heads up. But these surprises? Ugh, pet hate. Like when people turn up in your house and go, we were just passing by. To be fair, rarely, but I've done that myself. But some people make a kind of habit of it, we were just passing by, and you're going, oh, geez, I was having a crap, or the house is like a tip, or whatever, and people just, I just don't give me the surprises. I can do without them. Anyway, he hasn't phoned me today, which isn't like him. So he's probably in a bit of a snot. He should know I love him. We go back too long, 50 years plus. But yeah, I think he was a bit miffed. But fuck him if he was, because I was a bit freaking pissed off, big time. There's a way of, by the way, I'm not going to, okay, forget that. I've just told it to you, so this doesn't apply. But I heard today, there's a nice way of saying the C word, which is a kind of a swear that most people can't stand, the C word, But there's a civilized way of doing it, apparently. You say, see you, as in the numbers, or the letter C, but you don't, You say, see you next Tuesday, which abbreviates to the C word. I thought I'd mention that. Why don't we talk about Donald Trump, President Donald Trump? That you can still use the presidential title in the States if you're an ex-president. So look, I don't know how you feel about that. I do laugh, even though his names in naming people are childish, but they can be effective. I mean, I do think Comrade Kamala is quite funny. That's what he's been calling her. So a second assassination attempt now, fool me once, fool me twice. Whereas, it's always the lone nut. That should get you suspicious for a start. It's always the lone nut. Well, all as I will say is this time around, what lone nut would be aware of President Donald Trump's movements 24 hours or whatever it was in advance, so that he could set up a little shooting nest, and get into position? You mean, how would he have known, unless he had some bloody good information, that Donald Trump was going to be on the golf course at that particular time? That makes me very suspicious. Joe Bloggs should not have access to the itinerary of a former president. How come that guy, if he was a nut and all and acting alone, how would he be party to that information without some bloody good inside information coming his way? Riddle me that, folks. Now, my tops have been getting to me a bit. This Reebok one, I like it because it's soft on my skin. But, you know, do you ever kind of have a kind of black, like, memorial of clothes? You're going, I'm fed up of wearing all these bloody T-shirts in rotation. Maybe I should just have this big auto-da-fe and get rid of the lot of them and buy some new ones. But they do have to be soft because there's kind of scratchy ones that scratch my skin quite a lot. Hello, lovely Sue. Sue asked me by email, which is thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. And hello to you, Jason, as well, who contacted me about an older podcast I did about ads on television. Did you hear about the gay guy who wiped his arse in a newspaper? He got ads. And before you get offended, it was a gay man who told me that. Not AIDS, he got ads. Newspaper, get it. Anyway, it was a friend of mine, a gay man, who told me that in 1983, when that kind of epidemic was. I'm going to stop saying kinda as well. Every time I say kinda, I'm going to ring a bell from now on. I want to stop doing it. Stop saying kinda. Anyway, Brendan, you told me that joke. It's not really a joke, is it? Yeah, so what else can we talk about? We've talked about the moon, my T-shirts, Donald Trump, Steve getting pissed off with me, and I was on the subject of Sue. That's what it was. Hi, Sue. And Sue asked me, was I still listening to Ray's Rants? Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Ray's Rants, Rays, Rants, it's on YouTube. I became a fan well over a year ago because I find it one of the most soothing podcasts on earth. Ray won't mind me telling you that he's 73 years of age, although he certainly doesn't do age. And he describes largely life from the 50s, 60s and 70s and the culture as it was and how it's changed. And as we all get to a certain age anyway, we see our culture changing right around us, right in front of our eyes. So, you know, when people start sounding, I'm not saying he is, but start sounding grumpy, etc., you have to forgive them rather than pass them off as the grumpy old so-and-so, because a lot of people are dealing with changes in their immediate environment. And, you know, it was 20 years ago, largely, people weren't walking around like this every 5 minutes and, you know, looking for validation from this or whatever platform they're on at the time. And communities as well have changed in terms of the demographics involved. The whole COVID thing knocked people for six, split up families, all kinds of stuff went on there. So you have to forgive people because you get older, but you do get wiser, and it might sound like you're being a gammon or you're mouthing off, or you think, oh, what a frickin', why don't you just get into your diapers and die, you know? Whoa, you got to respect like they do in the East, you know, in Asia and stuff. They respect their elders. I'm only saying that now because I hit 61 recently. And I was saying to my wife, we were out for a walk this evening. We went all the way up through Donnybrook and onto the canal and all the way back again. And I was saying, I meet guys for coffee and they're my age, but to me, they're owl fellas. But I'm an owl fella as well, surely. But to me, they look really owl fellas. Now, a lot of them have lost their hair, which luckily enough, I haven't. But it was Wayne Dyer. You might remember him, a kind of pop psychologist who put it better than I could. And he said, don't let that old person in your life, because if you start thinking, oh, how things used to be better and blah, 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 next minute you're wearing beige, then you're getting set in your ways, you're not going out, you're talking constantly about the old days. And he said, don't let that old person in. And he remained very young-minded up until his untimely death at the age of 75. Good enough innings, but these days... So Wayne Dyer, check that out sometime. Great guy. He wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones. Your Erroneous Zones. Do check it out. It's on YouTube as an audio, and that lets you know where you're going wrong. And I need to explain. Sorry to Sue. Sue, I do still listen to Ray's rants. Sent me off a rabbit hole there, down one or up one, depending what you're into, and yeah, I do. And I often listen to him early in the morning. Now, what Ray has is something that I don't have on this, and that is he has a structure to his podcasts. He does an hour on Sunday, and then he does a very clever thing. He calls it a midweek catch-up or midweek message, which only lasts about 15 minutes. And it's great because it sustains you just enough for the next Ray's rants on Sunday. And I think that's a great idea. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do one long show and then just a midweeker, because I don't have the time, and I probably am just talking you in circles. But I'm hoping, because I feel some of you in the ether kind of thing, you know. So, you know, I've named all the names before. You guys know who you are, and if you don't by now, don't be offended, because I love you. You know, I get to kind of know people through this, and therefore I feel I can talk on a one-on-one. Had a great chat actually today with a guy called Phil Cawley. Phil Cawley was one of Ireland's top disc jockeys. For many, many years, he fronted the flagship kind of drive time show on Today FM. And he had a lot to say on a podcast recently. I have to mention this podcast because it's very good. Very calm kind of dude from the country here in Ireland. It's called The Wood from the Trees podcast. I think it's because his job is in forestry. This is the podcast hoster now. And he had Phil Cawley on. And I actually had done a course in Today FM and had met Phil while Phil was on air. So Phil appeared on this podcast, The Wood from the Trees, and he had a lot to say. And so I just said, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to have a chat with him, which I did on Instagram. And Phil came back and said, phone me at such a time, just because I'm usually in the car on the way to do my radio show down in South East Radio. So we had a good chat, total gentleman. You know, this guy was very high profile and at one point very highly paid, a total professional. And he just made the time to shoot the breeze with me today. So thank you very much, Phil Cawley. Lovely making your acquaintance. You're an absolute gentleman. Then... let me put a shout out. I hate to use that term. Later on, I guess who I phoned. I phoned a bloke called Paul Manning. You know, I'm Mark Manning. Paul Manning is absolutely no relation. But Paul Manning happens also to be, and a very, very good one, a voiceover guy. You know, and how I found out he existed was that an agency in the UK phoned me one day and said, can you do another one of these commercials for us? And they sent me the copy and I went, I never did that commercial in my life. And they were very insistent and I got very pissed off after a while and said, listen, what part do you not understand? I did not ever read that commercial before. And they said, well, mate, oh, hold on, you're right. Guy's name's Paul, not Mark at all. So yeah, Paul has he's got a 9-to-5, and he kind of has a side hustle with the voiceovers, but they are excellent. I mean, he's worked for everybody. He's worked for the banks here. He's worked for all kinds of brands. And so it was, you know, fill your life with people, you know, reach out to them. There you go. Phil Cawley, top broadcaster. Paul Manning, great voiceover. Speaking of other people as well, I appeared on, I hate that word appeared. It's kind of biblical, isn't it? Oh, I appeared on twice actually, but the most recent time was a show called The Richie Allen Show. Richie is an Irishman from Waterford originally, but he's a journalist and a broadcaster, and he's based out of why do I never get this right? It's not Salisbury, Salford in Manchester. And he's got a very big listenership, which he's built up over 10 years. And he celebrated his 10th anniversary of the show last Sunday. Indeed, he gave me a nice mention. And I thank him for that. So since I appeared on his show as well, I've been contacted. A few people wanted to get on and follow me and stuff. We meant to talk about radio, because we've backgrounds in radio when he had me on. But then I think he wanted to talk about radio more in the context of how the media is reacting, or should we say not reacting, to events in Dublin. By the way, events in Dublin and Ireland very similar to events in the UK and in the US, and I don't want to go there. So I went down a bit of a gammon, kind of, not quite rant, but and I wouldn't say I was sidetracked deliberately. It's just that I misunderstood the brief. I thought, yeah, he wants to talk about the old days of pirate radio and stuff. But we just got talking about, Irish society and how it pertains to the media these days. And anyway, good enough reaction and a super audience from a super guy. Again, Richie Allen, the Richie Allen Show. Richie is rough and ready. He doesn't have a broadcasting voice and he's proud of it. But he's very incisive, very creative, very, very funny at times as well. Some of the funniest things I've heard are on the Richie Allen Show. So if you want to make a little note there, Ray's Rants and Richie Allen. I like them and I recommend them. Anything else to talk about before I go? So Susan, yeah, I do still listen to Ray. Guy reached out to me, a guy called Jason, about a piece I did on old television ads. And he liked it because he specialises in it, particularly Irish ones. The ones from the 70s and 80s. So, of course, the delectable Cadbury's Flake chocolate. Very suggestive, that one. You'll know what I mean. Fellatio flake. And do you remember one as well? The student is going out, and I'm sure the lady's long past at this stage, but his mum, the actress portraying his mum, student is going out, and he's got a bunged up nose. He's going out to do an exam. And he's, I don't think I could do my exam, Mum. And she'd go, "Course you can, Malcolm." And her solution was, I think, to give him tunes. Do you remember tunes? To clear up his, I think it was tunes anyway, his blocked, are you still with me now? His blocked nose and his throat. And then he comes in and she says, "How did it go?" "Oh, Mum, I'm able to breathe much better, thank you so much." "No, I meant the exam, stupid." Oh, Malcolm doesn't look so positive about that. I bet you Malcolm now, if he's still with us, he'd be in his 70s maybe. And the poor lady, well, she'd be gone. She must be at this stage because she was maybe 40s, 50s in the early 90s. I know. I just like talk about ads. And so did this guy. That's where I'm going with it. So did this guy. And that's it. Well, we are back. I mean, I had the 2-month sabbatical and I've decided to continue on, but the structure has got to change. And I need to prepare it, and I really need to decide on the platform as well. I do think I'll stick with YouTube, but because cameras and stuff are all in. But do you really want to see me and my big freaking nose and my little studio? What Ray actually does, and I have one, I think. Do I have it here? I do. I have a portable recorder. Where is it? There it is. This is standard issue. I might have shown it to you before. It's called a Zoom, not to be confused with Zoom, as in Zoom. Who's zooming who? It's got a H1. There's a big march in Dublin tomorrow. Imagine me going out saying, "Oh, what do you think of this?" That's what something like that. It's got a little SD card in it. It's super cool. They're the guts of $1,000. And he records when he's out and about. And you might think, well, what can you record? But you'd be surprised. Just the surroundings he finds himself in. He was on a hill recently and there was a glider being towed. And he was commenting on it and you could hear the engine of the lead plane, you know, the one that tugs it. Anyway, I'm just saying, there's a dimension to his show where you end up listening through the podcast end of things, and you hear all the bird song and you know, the rivers and the woods that he visits and the museums. He comes across pieces and starts discussing them. Look, guys, I'm afraid I've run out of words. You'll be delighted to know. You might say, what was all that about? Will Mark and Steve? Of course we will. But I think it just needs the air needs clearing. I think he got a bit pissed off with me. Will Mark and Steve go hand in hand? Yeah, through the Sound of Music style again, running down the valleys together. I know we will. But was I wrong? What do you think? I just felt I was short-footed. I got absolutely no heads up, and I just wasn't in the mood. And maybe the guy that he was with thought I was being rude as well, which I felt I'd been put in that position where now I look like that. But look, life is too short. And really, if you have stuff like that in your life, really, especially when you get to a certain age, just fucking don't waste time on it. Somebody else's problem. It's not bloody my problem. Yeah. Bye.